In the far reaches of space, a man named Peter Quill finds himself the object of a manhunt after stealing an orb coveted by the villainous Ronin. This is my review of Guardians of the Galaxy. For those of you that don't know, this movie was at number 3 in my top 15 most anticipated movies of this year. And the reason it was at number 3 was because when I first heard the announcement at Comic-Con 2012 that this movie was being made, I think me and mostly everyone else that didn't know who Guardians of the Galaxy were like, who? Wait, who? What? So I did research on Guardians of the Galaxy, and after knowing who and what Guardians of the Galaxy is and are, I have to tell you guys that I was pretty excited for seeing this movie. And then after hearing who was going to direct the movie and who was going to be in the cast and the voice cast, I was even more excited for the movie. And then after seeing the first trailer for the movie, I was totally excited and couldn't wait for the movie because it looked awesome. And after seeing it with my dad, I have to tell you guys that I thought Guardians of the Galaxy was really great. The good points. I believe the best thing coming out of this movie was the tone that the movie went for, which was this zany, comedic, action-adventure type of movie. And I think the reason that it worked was because of the directing, the writing, the acting, and the voice acting in this movie. And speaking of those 4 aspects of the movie, I thought that those 4 aspects were done very well too. For the directing and writing, I thought that James Gunn did a good job of doing both of those things because I thought that he spent enough time on the main characters and the villain of this movie to make them feel important. Because I felt like they were written in such a way where they had enough time and importance in the movie to make them feel like they're part of the movie. And I thought that James Gunn did a good job of telling who each of these people were in a short amount of time. For the cast, I thought that Chris Pratt did a great job of playing Star-Lord. I thought that Zoe Saldana did a great job of playing Gamora. And surprisingly, I thought that Dave Bautista did a good job of playing Drax. Because before I saw this movie, that was one of the big question marks I had for this movie, was if Dave Bautista was going to do a good job or not of playing Drax the Destroyer. And after seeing the movie, not only did I think his acting was passable, I thought it was actually good. As for the voice cast, I thought that Bradley Cooper did a really good job as Rocket Raccoon because I wasn't thinking of Bradley Cooper's voice when Rocket Raccoon was talking. I was just thinking, like, this is this raccoon's voice. And I think the reason for that was because of the personality that Bradley Cooper put into Rocket Raccoon, which was this really snarky, comedic, joking raccoon. And as for Vin Diesel, I thought he did a good job as Groot because each time he said, "I am Groot," you can tell there are these different hints as to what he was trying to say because each time he said, "I am Groot," it was like this different tone to each time he said it. Speaking of Rocket Raccoon and Groot, let's talk about the visual effects. The visual effects for Rocket Raccoon, Groot, and all the other visual effects throughout the movie were done very well. Each time Groot or Rocket Raccoon were on screen, I wasn't thinking, wow, like, those guys aren't realistic, because each time they came on screen, I was like, wow, that looks real. And as for the rest of the visual effects, I thought that they were done so well that I'm thinking they're in my top 5 best visual effects movies of this year. Other aspects such as the sound design, the costume design, and production design were done well, because I thought those 3 aspects had a lot of thought put into them. Another thing that's done well in this movie is the music, because not only is the original score done well, but I thought that the copyrighted music that was used for this movie was really good. Because the copyrighted songs that the movie used were from Peter Quill's Sony Walkman when he left Earth with it when he was 10 years old. So in the movie, we get a good mix of 70s and 80s songs, and yeah, now I got those songs stuck in my head now. The way this movie ended left it open for a sequel, and I wouldn't mind to see a sequel because I thought this movie was awesome. I thought the post-credits scene in this movie was really funny, and I'll talk about that more in the spoiler section of this review. And the final good thing I'll say about this movie is that there are some surprises that I didn't see coming in this movie, and I'll talk about those surprises later on in the spoiler section as well. The bad points. Alright, the number one thing I didn't like about this movie was the mid-credit scene, and I'll explain myself later on in the spoiler section, but I guess I wouldn't say I totally disliked it, but I partially disliked it. And the other thing I didn't like about this movie was some of the writing. And some of that writing included some of the emotional scenes that we saw in the movie. And I thought the roles written for Karen Gillan, Jamon Hansu, John C. Reilly, and Benicio del Toro were just a little bit too short for me. Because after I watched the movie and after looking at the big picture, it didn't seem like those four characters had much to do in this movie. So like I said before, I saw this movie with my dad. My dad gives this movie a 3.75 out of 4 stars, while I give it the same score, a 3.75 out of 4 stars. I thought it was a really good movie. It had a really good, zany, comedic, action-adventure tone to it that was done well throughout the movie. The cast and voice cast did a good job. James Gunn did a good job of writing and directing the movie. Only problem I had with the movie was with the mid-credits scene and with some of the writing. If you're a fan of action-adventure, of superhero movies, of the Marvel movies, if you're a Marvel Comics fan, then I believe you'll truly love this movie. Alright, spoilers for Guardians of the Galaxy. If you haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy yet, then get out of here now! Because I'm going to be spoiling some big stuff, and I don't want to spoil this stuff to you because I want you to enjoy it. Is there a problem with that? I mean, come on guys, why can't you guys just enjoy something that you haven't seen yet? So like I said before, I thought that the roles written for Karen Gillan, Jamon Hansu, John C. Reilly, and Benicio del Toro were just too short in this movie because it didn't feel like they had any time to have like an important role in this movie. To be honest, I thought that Jamon Hansu's character of Korath and Benicio del Toro's character of the Collector should have been written out of the movie. Because then there would be more screen time for Nebula for the scenes that included Korath. But I guess without the Collector, we wouldn't have gotten that really funny post-credits scene later on in the movie, which I'll tell you guys later in a second. But as for John C. Reilly, I just didn't see any characterization in his character that he played in the movie, because when I saw John C. Reilly on screen, I was like, yeah, that's just John C. Reilly. No, I'm just seeing John C. Reilly, not the character that he's playing. And as for the emotional scene that I thought was written a little bit badly in the movie was when Groot died in the movie. Now, I knew beforehand that Groot had his regenerating powers because I did my research for the movie, and that's one of the things I wish I didn't know because I thought that would have been a little bit more dramatic when I saw it in the movie. But when I saw Rocket cry, I was like, wait, why is he crying? Does he not know that he has regenerating powers? But then later on in the movie, like this is near the end, and just a few minutes later, it's the ending of the movie, and we see Rocket have like one of the remnants of Groot, like it's a stick of Groot, and it's put in a flower pot, and it's like, wait, I thought you were crying before, but do you know that he can regenerate or something? Alright, let's get to the mid and post-credit scene of this movie. So in the mid-credit scene, we see Drax and Groot in the scene, and Drax has his back towards Groot, who is in his flower pot, and he's like dancing. He's like starting to grow still in his flower pot, but he's dancing to one of the songs on the mixtapes. And it's like Drax looks behind because he thought he saw Groot move, but then Groot like stands still, and then when Drax turns back around, Groot starts to dance again, and then it goes to the credits, and it's like, yeah, that was a little bit funny. And then the post-credit scene comes, and it's the Collector and his like ruined like collection room and everything, and Cosmos, the dog, comes and licks the Collector's face, and then we hear his voice off the camera, and it's like, why you let him lick your face like that? And then it goes to a shot of Howard the Duck, and then Howard the Duck is like, that's just weird. And then he takes a drink out of like his martini glass or something, and it was like, wow, that was really funny with Howard the Duck. Now, out of these two scenes, I would have gotten rid of the mid-credit scene, but I'll explain myself later because I have to talk about the ending of this movie. So like I said, the ending definitely leaves it open for a sequel for Guardians of the Galaxy, and at Comic-Con this year, like a week before the movie came out, they announced Guardians of the Galaxy 2, so it's like, oh man, okay. And you can obviously tell that for the sequel of Guardians of the Galaxy, it's going to involve Peter Quill's father, and it's going to involve Thanos. Because for Guardians of the Galaxy 2, we're going to be in Phase 3 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it's going to lead up into Avengers 3. And Avengers 3 is most likely going to be a team-up between the Avengers and the Guardians of the Galaxy. And speaking of Thanos, we saw Thanos, and I was really surprised by that. I knew that Josh Brolin was already casted to be Thanos for like later movies, but I didn't know he was going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy. So the first time he got teased in the movie, it was like, oh, okay, yeah, haha. But then the second time he got teased, it was like, okay, stop teasing if you're not going to show him. And then a second later, it goes to like that like rocky space area where we saw him in the mid-credit scene for the Avengers, and it's like, oh wait, what is going on here? So Ronan is talking to Thanos, who's on his throne, and then Thanos turns around and he talks, and it's Josh Brolin. It's like, oh my gosh, he's talking. But yeah, that was cool to get a full glimpse of Thanos in his armor suit and everything, and to hear him speak for the first time. So now this gets to my problem I had with the mid-credit scene, which was I didn't really feel like they should have had that mid-credit scene with Groot and Drax. I mean, I know it was a little bit funny, but I thought it should have been a different scene. And I think it should have been something either to hype up Avengers Age of Ultron or to hype up the next Guardians movie. And I think what it should have been was either like Nebula going back to Thanos even though she betrayed him to like talk about future plans, or it either talks about or shows Peter Quill's father. But no, we got that mid-credit scene with Groot and Drax, and yeah, sure, that's alright, I guess. But I wish it would have been different, and I wouldn't have replaced it with the Howard the Duck scene, because I thought the Howard the Duck scene was just genius, and I thought the Drax and Groot scene was a dime a dozen sort of thing. So yeah, that's my review for Guardians of the Galaxy. Hope you guys liked it. And other than that, guys, that's it.